Welcome to the Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you with us today. Okay, let's jump right into this because today we are exploring something that is literally foundational in the world of sustainability reporting. We're looking squarely at the SASB financial sector, and specifically, we're going to zoom in on the asset management and custody activities industry. Now, in a space that deals with billions and sometimes tens of trillions of dollars, rivaling the GDP of entire nations, how do we measure the true scale of an institution? How do we make sure that the sustainability data we're looking at actually makes sense in the real world? Well, the answer lies in what I like to call the great equalizers, the SASB activity metrics, specifically FNAC000.A and FNAC000.B. Here is our quick roadmap for today. We are going to cover the problem of scale, the core activity metrics, assets under management, assets under custody, and finally, how to actually use these to normalize data. I want to start off by asking you a question. Think about it. How do you realistically compare a boutique wealth manager to a massive global financial giant? If you're looking at raw sustainability data, let's say absolute greenhouse gas emissions, or the total amount of monetary losses from a legal proceeding, how can you possibly compare the raw absolute numbers of a firm with 20 employees to an institution with operations spanning the entire globe? You really can't. Without context, raw numbers in sustainability reporting can actually be incredibly misleading. So let's kick things off with Section 1, the problem of scale. The SASB standard for this industry explicitly points out the incredible diversity of the entities involved. On one side of the spectrum, you've got these large, multi-jurisdictional asset managers. They offer a massive range of investable products, strategies, and asset classes, and they compete primarily on the management fees they charge and their potential to generate superior investment performance. But on the complete flip side, you have small boutique entities. These firms provide highly specialized services to very specific market niches, and they compete on their ability to provide customized products to satisfy individual client diversification needs. Because this industry provides essential services to such a huge range of customers, from everyday retail investors to massive institutional asset owners, comparing the sustainability performance of these two extremes absolutely requires a common denominator. Which brings us to Section 2, the activity metrics. Straight from the SASB Standard Table 2, we have the actual tools used to quantify operational scale. These are our two activity metrics. The first is Total Assets Under Management, or AUM, which is code FNAC000.A. The second is Total Assets Under Custody and Supervision, code FNAC000.B. Now, notice that both of these are quantitative categories, and both are measured in the entity's presentation currency. That's key. These aren't performance metrics telling you how well a company is doing on ESG issues. They are scale metrics. They literally just tell you the sheer size of the playing field. So what is their explicit purpose? Well, the SASB framework lays this out beautifully in its overview. First, these activity metrics quantify the scale of specific activities or operations by an entity. Second, they are intended for use in conjunction with other sustainability metrics. Basically, you don't just look at them in a vacuum. Third, and this is the magic word for today, you use them to normalize data. Normalizing just means turning an absolute figure into a ratio or a percentage that reflects the company's size. And fourth, by normalizing that data, you facilitate comparison. Suddenly, you can compare that global, multi-jurisdictional giant with the small boutique firm on a true apples-to-apples basis. Moving right along to Section 3, Assets Under Management. Accuracy is absolutely crucial here, so let's get precise for a second and look at the strict definition from the technical protocols. AUM is defined as the total market value, expressed in the presentation currency, of the assets managed by a financial institution on behalf of clients. Every single word in that definition matters. We are talking market value, not just the initial cash investment. It's in the presentation currency, which ensures alignment with their financial statements, and crucially, it represents assets managed on behalf of clients, which really highlights the core fiduciary nature of the asset management industry. This number is the ultimate proxy for an asset manager's true scale. Now, let's flip the coin for Section 4, Assets Under Custody. You see, not every entity in this industry makes direct investment decisions for portfolios. Some entities just act as custodians. Managing assets FNC0000.A is fundamentally different from holding and supervising them FNC000.B. Think of it like the difference between an active, fast-paced trader and a highly secure vault. Custodians have incredibly strict legal requirements as safekeepers for their clients. While both metrics are quantitative and both are measured in the presentation currency, they represent entirely different operational activities. Knowing an entity's assets under custody provides the necessary scale for firms whose primary business model is safeguarding assets, clearing trades, and ensuring regulatory compliance rather than active portfolio management. Okay, Section 5, Normalizing Data for Comparison. This is where the rubber really meets the road. We've talked about the what, so let's explore the why and how by seeing these metrics in action in actual sustainability disclosures. Take the financed emissions topic, for example. Code FNAC 410B.2 asks for the total amount of AUM included in the financed emissions disclosure. Then, Code FNAC 410B.3 takes it a step further by asking for the percentage of total AUM included in that calculation. And if that percentage happens to be less than 100%, the entity has to explain the exclusions. By using AUM this way, SASB is essentially forcing the entity to contextualize its data. You aren't just getting some arbitrary emissions number, you are seeing exactly what proportion of the firm's managed money is actually being measured for climate risk. This crucial point is really driven home when you look closely at the financed emissions framework. The very first metric asks for absolute gross financed emissions in metric tons of CO2 equivalent. For a global financial giant, that absolute number is going to be astronomically high compared to a boutique firm, simply because they have way more money invested in the market. But right beneath it, the framework immediately demands that AUM context. By requiring the total AUM included and the percentage of AUM included, investors can finally see the emissions intensity relative to the firm's size. The raw, absolute number is totally tamed and given perspective by the activity metric. Let's summarize what we've learned today about why these great equalizers are so vital. Normalizing data with these activity metrics does three key things. First, it contextualizes the amount of assets utilizing specific strategies, like ESG integration or sustainability-themed investing. Second, it clarifies the exact proportion of AUM included in highly complex metrics like financed emissions. And third, and honestly most importantly, it equips investors to accurately compare that tiny boutique wealth manager to the massive multi-jurisdictional global giant. It turns raw, unscaled data into actionable, comparable insights. I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. If you don't know the scale of an asset manager, can you ever truly understand their sustainability impact? The SASF standards make it incredibly clear. Without knowing the assets under management or the assets under custody, you are literally only seeing half the picture. These activity metrics aren't just background data. They're the absolute necessity, the essential denominators that make all other sustainability reporting in the financial sector actually meaningful. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and I will see you next time.